Hey,
So,
we're in the kitchen with Jared this wonderful morning. This is the first day of unleavened bread,
Feast of Unlimited Bread, yeah.
feast of unleavened bread. So he's going to demonstrate to us how he makes his unleavened bread
Yeah.
for the festival. So okay.
So the first thing you want to do, guys and gals, because I know it's not just gals in here who are looking. So you want to get your heat up. Even if you're using electric stove or even a gas stove like we're using here, you want to just bring it into about low, not low temperature, but medium low. Okay. So I've got mine at like 3.5. Okay. So I get that going first. Then the next thing I want to do, I want to prepare the flour. Get the flour, get the ingredients, get the dry ingredients ready first. So I'm taking 2 cups of flour here. As far as salt is concerned, you definitely want some salt in it. This is about a tablespoonful, but I take about half a tablespoon because you don't need a whole lot of salt in it. Then what I do, I go ahead and mix my dry ingredients first. Real simple. This is going to be the simplest recipe you'll probably ever do in your life. Okay. The next thing I do, now you want to get a little bit of a close-up on this because I drown my flour in oil. Okay. So don't think so much about how much don't kind of weigh it or anything.
What kind of oil is that?
This is avocado oil, but you can use olive oil or avocado oil for it. Then what I do, I go ahead and mix it up before I put in the water because I am going to add water. Also, if you want to, you can also add parsley to it. Sometimes I'll chop up my parsley to add to it, depending on what you're planning on doing with the bread as well. But I'll go ahead and mix this up really good. You probably want to get a little bit of a close-up on this, Donnelly, as I'm doing it, because you want to be able to see what happens to the flour as I'm mixing it with the oil. And then in a few minutes, I'm actually going to use my hands to kind of mix this into it as well. But I use a lot of oil in it because, well, I mean, what was I think Elisha told the woman to go ahead and make some bread, and she said, "Oh, I got a little oil and a little flour." So that's what they use, oil and flour. So after I do this, by the way, I do wash my hands before I actually mess with the flour, so understand that I do use that, okay? Then I just add a little bit of water at a time because I want this thing to lump up nicely. I'll go back with my fork. And then somewhere in the middle of this, I'm actually going to begin using my hands. I want to get this thing lumpy as possible. It's clumpy and lumpy. And I'm going to go ahead and make a nice little ball with it. These are the main ingredients that go into it if you want to add something else to it. But this is unleavened bread. Remember, this is what the scripture calls it, unleavened bread. Some people want to use that word matzah. Okay, I know it's an English word and everything else, but I prefer to do it myself instead of having somebody pray over it that I don't know who they are. I don't know where they come from. I don't know what their belief is, but they're going to go ahead and pray over something that out of a box and it was processed by some machine, whereas Father gave us the ability to go ahead and make this by hand. So you see, it's a little clumpy now. So this is good. So now the oil and the water are going to help me to make a nice ball out of this. You can see a lot of the flour and the oil and the water are kind of mixed in really good together. So you want to get close on this one, honey. Okay, you don't want to go away from this. Okay, because this is where the action is. This is where the action is, guys. Okay, so we're making a nice ball out of this all the way around. And we'll let it sit for a little bit, but not long. Let it rest. For some reason, you got to let flour rest a bit. And I love making breads by hand as well. I know machines, I know a lot of people tend to use a lot of machines. But I'll set it in here, moving my water and everything else out of the way. Like I said, if you want to go ahead and add parsley into it, you do that as you're kneading the dough. Have me a little bit of coffee. My wife got me this. Hello, handsome. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and get some, I can move this out of the way too, get some flour on the table here. I'll just spread a little bit of it out. And then I'll go ahead and roll that up a little bit, kind of move it around a bit. Then I'll grab my dough. And what I want to do is take that ball and I'll press it down. And I forgot one of my most important tools. You don't have to follow me on this one. This is one of my most important tools for cutting dough. I love this thing. I mean, Dolly thought I was nuts. Oh, this is a piece of sheet of metal. I mean, I could probably go ahead and use a plaster smoother, to do that. But so no, I like this. So I'll go ahead and cut my dough up a little bit. And I like cutting them. I like making small ones as well. Small unleavened breads. Then I'll go ahead and take each one and roll it up into a ball. Dolly's staying close with me here. And I kind of get them a little flat as a start. And they'll be nice and decently round when I get ready to go ahead and roll them out. But I get these ready. I really don't like to make my bread too big, only because some people don't want a whole lot of bread. So these will come out kind of nice. They kind of look weird now, I know. It's okay. A lot of people do them better than I do, that's for sure. I'm just kind of doing it for y'all. Okay. And the pans are getting hot. Just want to get one in there, one or two in there real quick, so that you can begin seeing what goes on there. Okay. Now I'm going to take one of these doughs. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and flatten out the dough. I just like to do it with my hands first before I put it onto the roller. And I'll put a little bit of dough, put a little bit of flour on my roller so it doesn't stick. And just do it lightly, I don't do it heavy. And just go back and forth with it. Question is always, how thin do you get it before you put it onto the pan? And I usually like to get mine thin enough to almost where I can begin to see the bottom of my mat here. Now this one does look a little cruddy, I know, but forgive me. I'm starting to see a little bit of the guy here. So now, follow me over to the pan. I'm going to take this over to, I want to get a little closer on this one. Okay. So now, it's already hot. So the moment I put it onto the pan, I want to kind of move it around a little bit, because that's when it will begin to bubble. If you get a little closer to it, you begin seeing the little bubbles start to form.
Okay.
Okay, you can see it starting to bubble, so you want to get closer on that. And then you kind of move it around to help it bubble some more. It's the bubbling effect that you get when you tear open that unleavened bread and you see the layers in it. And that's when the flavor really pops.
And didn't you say it occurs because the oil you did put in it causes that to happen?
Well, some people use oil, some people don't. I like using the oil ingredient because it does help it to do that. And you can see how it's bubbling there. I like that bubble. So, in fact, when I start doing more, it's going to bubble even more so than this one. I got two of them going. Normally what I would do, I'm only doing this for preparation to kind of show you how this works. I'll put one in here at the same time, have this one going, and I'll roll out another one while this one's blowing up on me. In fact, I should probably use one of these guys to flip it over, because that ain't going to help. So let's see, let's flip it over. So you can see it turning brown a little bit. And it's going to start bubbling on this side too. So again, kind of move it around. And sometimes it can come out a little wet. So this way you want to have it on there for a little longer. See, you can see it browning on that one side. I'm going to flip it over again. And it'll start bubbling again on this side. Watch. This is really kind of neat. You see it browned a little bit there. Are you close enough on it, honey? Okay. You can see it bubbling again on this side a little bit more. Some people like to see it done enough where it's dark on the other side. And I understand that because they want to make sure the bread's done. But it doesn't really take a long time for this thing to get done. But again, watching the bubbles is important. It's much like watching the pancakes when the pancakes are bubbling too. And you know that the pancake underneath is just about done when you see the edges a little dry and the bubbling start to go. So this one, the same thing. You see it turned up a little browner there. So again, I'll move it around a bit. It's almost ready.
You can see the smoke from the condensation.
Yeah. Just one more time. Let's see what we got. One more on this side. And we're really about done. The other thing is, too, that after you make them, you probably noticed in the batch that I made, some of them were a little wet because it was so hot. I didn't give them a chance to dry. So these I'm going to be making, I'm going to give them a chance to dry. You know, the other cool thing about the Feast of Unleavened Bread, you're not limited to just going ahead and just eating straight bread. Again, you can add a whole bunch of stuff to it. You can add parsley to it. You can add onions to it. You can add garlic to it. The thing Dolly and I like to do is make tacos with it. You can make tacos with it. You can make unleavened bread pizza with it, which is really fun for the kids because you can go ahead and get the pizza sauce. Dolly and I, we know now how to make Italian sausage with beef. And it really tastes like a real Italian sausage. So, yeah, that's what we'll do. Is we'll go ahead and make the bread, and then we'll go ahead and sausage. If you want the link to that, I'll be sure Dolly puts the link to that one on how to make Italian sausage out of beef, because it really is good. I love Italian sausage on pizza. I don't do pepperoni. I do Italian sausage. I make it from beef. And it's really tasty. You do have to use a little bit more fat into it, but if you got some fat lying around, that's really maybe 6, 7, 80% fat or 80% meat, and the other 20% fat is really good to go ahead and make that. But other than that, there's your unleavened bread. Unleavened bread. Praise Yah. Anything else you want me to add, honey?
That was well.
Okay.